Welcome to HQ Live. I'm Kim Sandberg. To see more great quilting content, watch our HQ Live series. Give us a subscribe and a like, and you'll be able to see lots more of the great videos that we make. Today, I have an awesome guest with me. This is Emily Bailey. So Emily, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. So Emily, tell us about yourself.
So I've been quilting for a really long time. So I got my first sewing machine when I was 10 from my mom. She had won it in the state fair for a dress that she had sewn for me.
Oh, fun.
And she just gave me some scraps just to play. And so my friend Jennifer and I were in my room at my desk with the sewing machine, and I would feed the fabric through and I'd say, "Step on it, sister," and she would push the pedal and we would just sew.
I love that it was a group thing.
It was a group effort.
You and your friend. So she would do the pedal on the bottom and you would be the driver, huh?
Yes. I don't know how good that was, but we had a lot of fun. So that's kind of how I started. I thought I would be a fashion designer. I did sew most of my clothes. I sewed all my bridesmaids' dresses. All of that kind of stuff was going on. And then I had 3 boys.
Oh, yeah, of course. As one does when one wants to make frilly dresses.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I understand.
They didn't think it was cool when I put them in sailor suits and knickers when they were beyond the age of 2.
I bet you have some really good pictures that you can pull out, though, and be like, remember when?
Yes. So,
how fun.
So then a lady at my church, she was offering to teach a block of the month kind of thing. So I started that. So that's really what got me into quilting.
Oh, cool.
And so I started quilting then. So
how many years ago was that?
So my son Neil was a baby then, and he's 26 now.
Okay.
So I started doing that, and then we moved here to Utah. We were in Portland at the time. And a lady in my neighborhood there invited me to go to a quilt guild, and I've been going to that guild since, and it's just snowballed from there.
It really has for you, hasn't it?
So yeah, like my first pattern, because when I did finally get a daughter 5 years after my last son. She's a bonus baby. She thinks she was a whoops, but she was a bonus baby.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
and you got to make those frilly dresses, right?
I have only made her one twirly skirt. So I was too much into quilting by then.
Okay, that's okay. We forgive you. If you're into quilting, totally works.
Yeah. So I was doing a quilt. I messed up my math, so I was trying to salvage the quilt and have it work. And when I figured it out and put it together, I was sewing displays for Quilters Haven in Bountiful, and Ruth Ann said, "Make that into a pattern and we'll sell it."
And a career was born.
Yeah. So it's just like...
That's amazing. So a math mistake led to all of this for you. That's crazy.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know. So, and then I was like, so I was in the neighborhood. My daughter Anna was 5 then, because that's when I started sewing displays. And Kathy Cloward, which is she's married to Blake of Riley Blaken's, the grandma of Riley.
Yes.
She heard what I was doing. They had Christensen Wholesale, and they were doing a vendor's mall. She said, "Bring your patterns and see how you do." So that's kind of how that all. And then my sister, her name's Julie Comstock. She was Cosmo Cricket. She designed fabric, and she got picked up by Moda, and Moda doesn't sew designs for their fabric designers, and my sister doesn't sew.
Yet she was a fabric designer. I love that.
Exactly. So she asked me, and so I started sewing with her fabric, and my first quilt that I did for her for market ended up on the cover of McCall's. So
wow.
I know. It's just, I've been very, very blessed. It's been a fun journey, and exciting to see where it takes me now.
Yeah, and it all started with a math mistake. I love that. It's, we have that in common. I can't do math either, so. Although my math mistakes have not led to designing beautiful things.
2 of my sons are engineers. I send them math memes and stuff, and one of my favorites is 4 out of 3 people struggle with math.
That's good. I actually get that one. That's very good. I totally agree with that. Although in my case, it'd probably be like 5.235 out of 3 people. That's what I would come up with.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
so
fantastic.
it's fun.
So you design patterns. So where can we find patterns that you design?
So I'm on Etsy. It's Aunt M's Place on Etsy. You can go to my website, auntmsquilts.com, and see what I'm up to. I will have classes or different events that are going on that are up there. Okay. So, yeah.
That's really fun. And I know you do like trunk shows and stuff too. I know the first time I met you, which I don't even know if it was a actual meet, but you came and did a trunk show at a quilt guild that I belonged to here. It was the Syracuse Quilt Guild.
Oh,
I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And I remember being like, oh, that is so cool, like designing the patterns. I went home and like drafted something and tried to make one block. And as I mentioned, I can't do math. Did not turn out. But I've like followed you since then and just seeing the fun stuff you've done. Yeah. And then this last December, you had called me to see if you could come and quilt some charity quilts.
Yeah, I do a lot of charity quilts. So my life has been a roller coaster just like everybody else's. You have the highs and the lows. And I ended up in an infusion lab where I met a totally amazing woman. Her name was Ginger, and she came in. It was my first treatment, and she came in bald and boobless. Those are her words. And
they have a sense of humor about things that happen to us in life.
Exactly. Yes. And she was singing, and she's like, "This sucks, so we've got to make it fun." And she handed out prizes and stuff. In the infusion lab. And so I became friends with her, and the Utah Quilt Guild had asked like what charities were available. And so I had mentioned Ginger's because she had Happy Chemo. I started giving quilts to cancer patients through Ginger. So I just have continued that. Yeah. So with the Utah Quilt Guild and other facilities.
Organizations. Yeah, it was really fun. Emily brought in a group of other quilters to the Handi Quilter Education Studio, and you guys finished, I remember you brought in 20 quilts and you finished, wasn't it 17?
I think we brought in more than 20, I think, but we finished 20 that day.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And I think there were like 5 or 6 of you there. We had all the machines, all the big machines running, and it was so much fun. And Emily, we had so much fun, and I was like, you need to come and do an HQ Live with us and talk about what you do.
I had to get a Handi Quilter too.
I know.
I bought one since then because I got 5 quilts done that day. I was like, this is awesome.
I know. That's what we like, finish more quilts. So that was a lot of fun. And you talked about just all the fun stuff that you did, and it was and your pattern making and everything else. It was just fantastic.
It's been a fun ride, and I just feel so blessed. And I do love working with quilters. They're just so generous.
Yeah.
Like I know the more people I teach, that it's just going to bring more quilty love into the world, because if there's a disaster, if there's an illness, if there's like the war-torn quilts go out and bring comfort.
They do. They really, really do. That's so true. So, and then recently you also came and took a class with us at Handi Quilter, and that's this first quilt we have to talk about here. So you mentioned you just got an Amara, and so you decided to come and do our long arm.
Yeah, I had to learn all the tricks.
Basics.
Yeah, so I could figure out what all I was doing. I mean, I was winging it. I did those 5 quilts, but I really wanted to know what was all available and what the machine was able to do. So Christina had showed like this quilt as you go pillow, and I thought, oh, that's cool method. I want to try that. And my strip bin was overflowing. Like I could not get the lid on. It was huge.
Yeah.
So I just started sewing strips together.
So these strips, like these strips here, are all you sewed the strips that are pieced on your sewing machine.
I sewed them into strip sets, and I cut them so they would be the same width.
Very cool.
Going all the way across. And then I used jelly roll strips to divide it in between.
I love it.
And then I quilted as you go, just down. I put the back and the batting on, and then I would just quilt as you go.
Put the 2 pieces together. The stitch and flip method. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it.
It went really fast. And then I filled in with the bigger strips. I didn't add anything in the jelly roll.
That's okay. They look great. I know I was looking at this going, so is there going to be a pattern coming soon for this?
I think it will make a fun class.
I agree.
Because I think not only could you do like this row kind of thing, but you could do like a medallion, you could do like a quarter log cabin. I think there's lots of possibilities. So I think it would be fun to play with all those possibilities and come up with a class.
I'm excited to see what you do with it.
Yep.
So
We're going to go and play some more because heaven knows I have more strips. We can put the lid on now, but that's all.
Isn't that, oh my gosh, the overflowing scrap bin. That's the
Yes.
hallmark of the quilt right there. Overflowing scrap bin. Yep.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on. You're going to talk to us today a little bit of through your pattern making process, like how you come up with ideas. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see the method to the madness, maybe.
Awesome.
All
So
right.
we'll go ahead and just flip this one off here and we'll move on to this next quilt. So tell me
Okay.
about this one.
So this is rhythm and blues. I have my youngest son was a drummer in a blues band.
Cool.
And I one day just decided I was going to play with a Majestic Mountain block, which is this one back here also.
Okay. So is this the more like classic?
Yeah, this
way
is
that
the
it's put together?
traditional way that it's kind of put together.
That's fun.
And then I decided I'm just going to play and see all the different ways this can go together. So this is the block here, and I have just,
So that square there.
yeah. So I've just twisted and turned it so that it kind of makes like follows
zigzag.
the chain through the quilt.
And then you added another block in here.
Yeah, I just
Just for
made
a
the
little bit of
chain. So
some-
there's an alternate block. So the chain block and then the Majestic Mountains, and they just go on the diagonal through the quilt
That is so
to
fun.
create the movement for my rhythm and blues for the blues drummer there.
So is this a pattern that's available
Yeah, this is my rhythm and blues pattern. So you can
on your website?
It's on my website. Yeah.
Cool. It's pretty. And I love the blues. I can see where you could do like rainbow values, or you could do the two color like you did here. There's a lot of possibilities.
I've done it in oriental colors, so that was kind of cool also.
It's really fun. Some nice fun space for quilting there too.
Yeah. And this is also the Majestic Mountain block. And I just put a center square in here because with these blocks, unless you square things up, they become a rectangle. And so to make it so they would fit, I did a partial seam with this square in the middle and then rotated them around. And instead of doing all of one fabric, I just kind of mixed and matched the fabrics all throughout so that it gave it a scrappy feel. But it's all the same. It's the same block.
That is, wow. That's amazing how just adding that one little piece right there completely changes the look of it. So you added this little piece and then you did the sashing and then of course the placement of how you put them together.
Yeah.
It's really fun. So pattern for this one?
This is called Dahlia.
Okay.
So it's also on my website.
That is so fun. And did you use jelly rolls for this?
No, this is a layer cake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm gonna have to go look at that pattern and see how you did that. I just figured,
So-
anytime I see strips, I'm just
Oh,
automatically
yeah. A lot
assume,
of people
oh, yeah.
assume that it is
We
a
did
jelly
that.
roll, but no, it's a layer cake, and just how you sew it together and cut it up makes
it.
yeah.
That's really fun. And should people be afraid of
No, and in fact, if you've not
Set-in
done
seams.
a
partial
it's not-
seams?
yeah, it's just a partial seam. It's really easy, and I do have a YouTube video on Aunt Em's Quilts on my YouTube that shows how to do a partial seam. So it's really not hard. Nothing I do is hard.
Yeah.
I don't do hard.
I'm right there with you. Or the first time I ran into that on a pattern, I was like, oh, and then I remind myself, you can ease in a sleeve on a blazer. You can do this.
If
Like,
you can
do
sew
this.
clothes.
Yeah, if you can sew clothes, you can sew quilts. No
Yes,
problem.
yes.
Two-dimensional, everything lays flat,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So this block you also did here, as we pointed out. So this pattern,
This is called Lotus. And I just had a lot of free space in here. This is
I
more
know.
the traditional method of how you put Majestic Mountains together. And I just had a lot of free space. At the time I was quilting on my domestic machine. So I did this on my domestic, but
I'm totally
just
impressed with the quilting.
experimenting with
Yeah.
different motifs. now I can try and figure that out on the long arm.
Yeah. So the quilting on this one, did you mark that or did you just?
No, I just free.
Oh, wow.
I don't ever mark. I'm lazy.
No, you're efficient. I always call myself
quick
a
and
lazy
dirty.
quilter because, yeah, I love that
want to get
though.
them done and share them.
We'll have to show you how to do that because this reminds me, this is like a type of pattern I love to do with like our wave rulers. You use the wave to lay down and then you go back and you put fun fillers on the inside. That is so fun. And you do that all in your domestic machine.
Yeah.
Boy, yeah. I want to see what you can do with your Amara with something like that.
I'm excited for that. I've had a quilt on it since I got it. I've had it for 2 months and I think I've done at least 5 quilts on it.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. I love to hear that.
It's been fun. It's been a good fun learning.
It's the reason why you got it, so you get those quilts finished, right?
Exactly, because that stack is high.
Yeah, always. Always. I know, the one in my workroom too. All right, so moving on to this next quilt here.
So actually, when a bin gets full, I usually design a quilt around it. And my son,
a bin. So hang on a second. What do you mean by a bin?
Like my scrap bins.
Okay,
it's like overflow. And I do have them sorted so that, like I have my strip bin that we just saw the quilt for that from. And then I only do shoebox size because.
Oh, so they're small. Okay, when I think of a bin, I'm thinking like.
Well, my bits bin is like that.
Okay.
But for my regular scraps, I have them according to color in shoe boxes.
Okay.
So when one gets full, then I have to design a quilt around it because we've got to manage it because we want to be able to put the lid on and not have those scraps have wild parties when you turn off the lights, and I have not figured out.
It's like they multiply, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like I know that lid wasn't that high off of there when I left yesterday.
Exactly. So my son and daughter-in-law, they got married last year and they wanted a green quilt, which was perfect because my green scrap bin was overflowing. And so I had designed a quilt for them. And then I teach a class on designing. And I used their quilt as an example. And so it's a giant star. This is a giant star also.
Should we hold this one up so you guys can really see here? Because when it's laying flat on the table, it's hard to see what we've really got going on there. But that star, I know. I kind of noticed that when you pointed that out. It's fun because you've got all these different blocks in it. It's kind of like a fun way to do a sampler. Is that a good way of saying it?
Yeah, and it's a fun way to experiment not only with color and value placement, but with different blocks and designs so you can create movement where like the flying geese kind of move your eye this way and the pinwheels, they can kind of spin around.
Yeah.
I have there's a leaf in here somewhere. Anyway, so in my class, I like to teach about color and design and how value helps to either make something blend, because there are like this 4-patch where it kind of blends together. Because of the value. The value is what makes it blend.
Explain what you mean just a little bit about that, because I'm sure we'll have questions.
So when you value is the lightness or darkness or the contrast between the varying fabrics next to each other. So with my star points, I wanted there to be a contrast between the low volume fabrics here and the dark fabrics here so that the star would really pop out.
So that you actually see it. Yeah,
because if you're blending, there's areas in your quilt where, because when I'm doing this, like I'm in my scrap bins, maybe I don't have enough to do the larger blocks here. So I'm going to piece some blocks in there, and maybe I don't want them to stand out like I do the flying geese. So then I'm going to blend them like this 4-patch. These 4 patches are kind of blending. Whereas I have the lighter background for the flying geese so that the geese will stand out. It pops out. Yeah.
I love that.
So that just gives you control of where you want something to pop and hang out, or where you want something kind of to blend in and not be in your face.
And I think that's a skill, for lack of a better word, that a lot of quilters, especially when you first start, you look at I know the first projects I did, like I didn't understand values. And so like I did reds, but I did prints that were red on white. And those do not read the same as something that has red in the background. And I put them next to each other trying to create, and it did not work. Let's just put it that way.
I have a little trick in my class that makes it super easy for you to check for values.
Okay,
so
I love that.
In my Bits to Beauty class, it's open. I have it open quarterly, so it's not open all of the time because I like people to go through the class together.
Yeah.
And so...
and that's this class?
Yeah, that's this class.
Bits to Beauty class.
Bits to Beauty. So it's taking your scraps. We talk about color and design and creating movement in your quilts so that, So it's a fun class. I really enjoy. On my YouTube channel, you can go back and see graduations from past classes. So you can see what people have done. It's really fun to see everybody's taking their ideas and creating their own quilt. So
I love that about quilting, that you have everybody, they're in the same class, they've been taught exactly the same things, yet everyone's projects will look different.
Yeah, in that class I have a block library. So there's over 24 blocks in there. So you can use those blocks to fill in here. Oh. So this is also in Bits to Beauty.
Such a
cute
pillow.
This is a heart. I don't know if the heart can be seen very well because it's in the pillow, but
we tip it up a little bit. You can see the little top of the heart there. Very
cute. We just
cute.
filled it in with scrappy goodness.
I love that.
I love scrappy goodness.
And you did. I love how you just have all these fun little blocks in there. That's such a a fun little pop, and it just creates something for you to like. You want to look and find it.
Yeah, kind of I Spy.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that's great.
Just a fun way to use up your scraps.
Yeah, those little bits.
Yeah. So in that class, you can make anything from a 24-inch wall hanging your pillow all the way up to like 96-inch bed size quilt, depending on what you choose.
How big your scrap bin is? How full your scrap bin is?
Even if you make the 96, you're still going to have scraps. I'll just tell you that.
Can't ever use them all the way up,
no,
right?
I did a whole book and it didn't even make a dent.
I actually, I wanted to ask you about that. So you have a book that's called Crumb Quilting. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, Crumb Quilts.
You gave me a quilty of it, and a copy of it, and I have it at home. And I've actually been, I just made a quilt that I did some of the blocks using your method of creating the own fabric. And then I took all the little bits that were left over and I've sewn them together, and I have like enough to do another quilt with it. I'm like so excited.
It's so fun.
But some of those pieces are just tiny.
Yeah, but they cost as much as your yardage, so you might as well get the bang for your buck.
I agree. I totally agree.
So knowing how to use your scraps just enables you to make more quilts and stretch your money. So
I totally agree. Yeah, your book is a lot of fun. Is that on your website or?
Yeah, it's in my shop, or you can get it on Amazon, wherever you buy.
It's a fun. If you want to just get a totally new way of looking at that scrap pile and creating something new, it's a fun book.
It's fun. Yeah, this quilt here,
this one,
the Wonky Rose Garden is in that.
So tell us about this quilt. This one's really fun too.
So this is more improv. I really do like a lot of improv. So this is just basically a log cabin, but it's got a weird shape in the middle. So, but you just sew it like a log cabin and go around and around.
Okay.
So my green and blue bin, they always fill up really fast. And so I'm just trying to use those up. And then from my bits bin, which is what I usually make my fabric from for the crumbs, I just gathered out the colors for the roses so that I could make the roses and then use the blue and the green as the background.
And I love how you had the colors go across the quilt here. Start with the pinks, reds, oranges, and then the purples.
Yeah, so the rose vines are growing up.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and you go from the green to the blue.
Yeah.
There was some real thought put into that.
So it's just fun to play.
Yeah.
So each rose will come out differently, and then you just square it up to the size you need it to be and throw it in your quilt.
So is the trick to getting the wonky shape always doing like 5 or 6 instead of
even
just
like
4?
This one is only 3.
Oh, that one's only 3.
So
okay.
it just has to be odd shape. You
Yeah.
just don't want it to be like a
No,
parallelogram or
yeah.
something.
Yeah. Stay away from that true log cabin where you're keeping everything square.
Sure. Yeah. I've taught a lot of improv classes, and some people it's fun and they enjoy it, and other people it really wigs them out.
So I have an entire HQ Live that I did many moons ago with Vicki Hoth, where I did an improv quilt and then I quilted an improv. It was hard. It was hard for Vicki. I think I'm a little more like you of I like that thinking outside the box, just looking at things differently, trying something new and not necessarily following an exact pattern. And whereas Vicki is very, and I mean, her quilts are always beautiful and perfect. And it was taking her not just outside of the box, but outside of the room that the box was in. So I totally know what you're saying. It's some people love it, and some people, I think it's fun for them to try, but it may not be.
It's not everybody's cup of tea.
Exactly.
So, some people, when you tell them to make a wonky 9 patch and just make 2, like their line will move a 1/4 inch instead of like 2 or 3. So
that's so true. I know one of the quilt guilds I belonged to, one year we had an improv challenge, and the thing that really threw a lot of people for a loop was she said you can't use rotary blades or rulers. You had to cut everything with scissors. And you cannot, especially long things, you cannot cut a perfectly straight line with scissors. So it was a guarantee that you had to do that. So do you ever do something like that with your classes?
So I still use a rotary cutter, but I'm just sewing and hacking off and sew something else and just throw it all together. Sometimes I just, like for my birthday one year, I just dove into the scrap bin and I made a whole bunch of like birds and trees. It became my enchanted forest quilt, and it was a great day. It was so fun just sewing and throwing stuff up on the design wall and see how it all comes together.
Oh, that's really fun.
So
that's a good idea for a birthday surprise. I love that.
You just have to treat yourself.
Have a day in the
studio. If you have
studio.
boys, they don't really think of those treat things, so you just have to treat yourself.
I love that. That's a really great idea. So what, do you have any current projects you're working on that you're excited about, classes you're developing, anything like that?
So I do have the Bits to Beauty that will the doors will open again in the summer. So at the end of July they'll open and you can register for that class. I do want to work trying to figure out the class with the Quilt as You Go. I'm always trying new things, so I will always be coming up with other things.
The next thing. I love it. I love it. That's so exciting. I know. I can't wait to see what else you do.
Well,
it's
like fast forward that movie. I can't wait.
I know. You're like, hurry up and get those things done. So, well, thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thanks for having me, Kim. This has been great.
Yeah, it's been so much fun. I always love hearing about other quilters' journeys, the things that you've done, and looking at everything that you've done here. A math mistake. I keep going back to that. I'm like, boy.
There are no mistakes.
There are no mistakes.
Fortuitous adventures.
Hey, I like that one. I really like that one.
Yeah, just go with it and see where it takes you.
I love that. Just make that quilt, finish it, and then move on to the next project, right?
Who knows where it will take you. So.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah. So, well, thanks for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and give us a like for more great HQ Lives. And have fun quilting this week.